Hello, everyone. My guest today for our reading discussion is a wonderful public health researcher from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg of Public Health, Dr. Michelle Carras. Dr. Carras is a member of the Department of International Health and specializes in normative and problematic uses of media and technology. Her areas of expertise include public mental health, epidemiology, evidence development, and mixed use methods analysis. She is particularly interested in the intersectionality of video games and mental health, as well as ways that mental health interventions can be delivered using video games. And excitingly, she is also the author of this week's reading, Commercial Video Games as Therapy, a new research agenda to unlock the potential of a global pastime. Dr. Carras, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation.
Dr. Carras, thank you for joining us today. My first question I have to ask is, in your own life, do you play video games? And what is it that drew you to the study of the connections between mental health and video games?
I do play video games when I can. The current one that I'm playing, I'm not sure if you would characterize it as a video game. I play Duolingo very regularly. But I got started by playing Dance Dance Revolution, which I used to lose a lot of weight many years ago, 15 or 20 years ago. And I played in the arcades then. I've also played World of Warcraft very heavily for a while during the Lich King expansion mostly. And I have 3 kids and they've all played video games really extensively. So I got interested in it because, well, my sons were big gamers and they kept telling me that I would really love this World of Warcraft game. It took me a while to see that there could be a reason to play it because I kept seeing how much they were playing it. And to me, it seemed like it was interfering. But then I started playing it myself and I saw how, people get together on this. It's fun, it's interesting. It gives you some goals that you can pursue that are very clear and concrete. I think you have Jane McGonigal as one of the people that you have as a reading. Yeah, so what she says about the ability to see progress, games really are good at providing that. And yeah, so for one of my sons, he has autism, and I saw that through games, he was able to connect with people in a way that was very naturalistic that he couldn't do face to face. So that's what got me started thinking about the potential benefits of games.
So you're really seeing kind of this progression, right? For all the way from when video games kind of got this from the arcade version all the way into the home console and then mobile and that's great.
Yeah.
You outline in your article the need to develop a common language to both describe the standardized terminology and reporting to describe the complex aspects of commercial games and the gaming communities as exposures and interventions. And I was curious, how has this process been going? It's 2022, and what inroads have you made since this article was written in 2018?
Well, in the field of medicine and public health, which is where when we think of developing evidence-based interventions, we're often thinking of work that comes out of the biomedical fields. There hasn't been a lot of progress, and we have a tradition of looking at video games as a single exposure or 2 exposures, like violent video games or not violent video games. And that's not really a good reflection of how video games should be construed at all. So outside of public health and medicine, there's a much richer way of describing the elements of games that can help us understand how they might have their effects. And we really need to bring this into public health. So I was building on someone else's recommendations. Reviews since mine have also brought up the need to standardize how we discuss them, but it's still a huge challenge. I think as research progresses, each researcher who talks about a game and decides to call it a video game and describe its qualities and characteristics and how it might be, how these features and mechanics might be contributing, that'll help move the field along.
And in this course, one of the things we've spent a lot of time talking about are different lenses. There is no standard unified theory of game design, and here it is, and everybody just kind of works off of that principle. It's all over the map, and it's progressed, and as different games come out, different new ways to describe them are necessary, right, to develop the mechanics. So not everyone may see the intersections between mental health and the affordances that video games can provide. How have you been able to work with mental health researchers to show the validity of this work?
Oh, okay. So one good thing is that I actually am a mental health researcher.
Mm-hmm,
My background is in public mental health and
mm-hmm,
specifically in psychiatric epidemiology.
yes.
So I'm able to bring that expertise into the biomedical field
Mm,
because like I was saying, a lot of this kind of research is done outside of medicine and public health.
mm-hmm,
And when you're using the most rigorous methods, which is what we have to use in the biomedical sciences, because we're affecting health outcomes. That's the goal of our research, is to
yeah.
directly understand health outcomes.
Mm-hmm,
That really helps to bring to create the evidence that can be used to drive changes to
mm-hmm,
interventions and policies and such. So I think one of the things that I've tried to do with using my background is to make sure that the methods that I'm using in my own research are highly rigorous
mm-hmm,
and reflect the best standards for research. And in that way, it conveys a level of validity that might not be found outside of these two fields. That said, it's also vital to take a multidisciplinary approach, because that's
mm,
one way in which I think the biomedical sciences often are lacking, in that there's only more recently been a recognition of the need to take these multidisciplinary approaches. So
mm-hmm.
I think without having had close collaborations with people in game studies and media psychology, I wouldn't have been able to approach designing research studies the way that I have, and I wouldn't have been able to approach, analyzing, writing them up. So that's also extremely important, is to have that nuanced multidisciplinary perspective.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing that the biomedical research and public health, especially, is fueled on that research. That is just the underpinning. Show me how it works. Give me the evidence. Give me the numbers. Back it
Yeah.
up. It's just
Yeah.
You have to have that as a baseline for any kind of real progress to be made. Yeah.
Right. And we're taught really specifically the ways that you can have threats to validity in
Mm-hmm.
this kind of research, because we want to be able to have confidence in our inferences, our causal inferences. So the methods that we use, for example, relying on like truly representative samples instead of online surveys, and the way that we talk about our results. So being very careful not to draw those causal inferences if we can't, not to say, video games cause people to be violent because we found a correlation.
Right.
These are all very important.
Right. Or, as often happens in the case when there is violence and there is a video game specifically mentioned in a manifesto or something like that, the media just takes that and runs that, and that becomes the kind of cultural zeitgeist opinion about that. And then you have to fight that bias, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.